All right, welcome on back, everyone, to another episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today, we're going to take a look at Shenandoah Area 598 out of Virginia. This council was originally chartered in 1928. Got a couple of patches to take a look at, of course, starting with the first issue on the patch table, the T1, with its dark yellow border, red background with white inner background, white letters, cannon on the right, pointing to the right. The first issue is a little easier to differentiate from subsequent issues because it is the only twill. So this red is not embroidered, it is just red twill. And the rest of these we'll see, which follow along similar themes but are pretty easy to pick out with some of the differences in the later releases as well, are all going to be solidly embroidered. So we start off, we've got the T1 with its gauze cloth back. They then followed that up with the S2. You can see that they have added on the S2 a number of things. The star has been replaced with a fleur-de-lis. We now have a 50 on the state image, and we have the numbers 1928, 1978. This is with a dark yellow border, red background with white inner background, white BSA and white fleur-de-lis, white letters, light yellow 50, and black 1928 and 1978. This is the second patch that they produced. So you can see it is essentially the same imagery, however, they've added some pieces. Obviously, the stars become a fleur-de-lis. They've added the 50. They've added the date numbers, 1928, 1978. This one also happens to be a cloth back. So generally, you can see right here, the subsequent issues are all going to be kind of variations on what we're seeing here. It's not going to be confused with the first, which was a twill issue for the T1. But we have a couple of these later issues, so I thought I'd just take you through them as well. They do have similar imagery, and we always like to provide as much information as possible. They followed this up with the S3. My guess is that it's meant to be another production run of the S2, but it is fairly distinct in that we now get a much lighter yellow border. Obviously, the 50 is considerably different. The shades of green for the state are also, this is more minty. We get some larger font, a little bit of sharper corners than we had on the S2 for the S3. This one also a cloth back. And you'll notice for this one, the cannon is still on the right, but now is facing to the left. There are a number of these issues from Shenandoah Area where the side the cannon is on, as well as the side the direction the cannon is facing, end up being one of the critical factors for identifying that particular CSP issue. So that was the first one, T1, and now here on the table we've got the S2 and the S3. The next two are similar, but they do not have the 1928, 1978, or the 50. Those would be the S4 and 5. What I thought was somewhat interesting was they did come back to this design we see on the table with the SA7. So a much later design. Here we come back to the 50 and 1928, 1978. Now the 50 is done in black. Now we get very sharp corners. So that's specifically denoted in the description. A light yellow border, red background with white inner background, white BSA and fleur-de-lis, black 1928 and 1978, black 50, and straight sides with sharp corners. I originally, because of the 1928, 1978, had this in our collection misidentified as one of the earlier CSPs until I kept reading down the descriptions and finding that, oh, this is actually an SA7 because of the straight sides and sharp corners. It's a little bit interesting if you go back through the history of CSPs. A lot of times the straight side sharp corners was an earlier issue, and then they went to kind of the more rounded CSP shape that we're used to seeing. This happens to be an exception to that rule. You can also see the fleur-de-lis have now moved to the outside, not between the Virginia, West Virginia. So there you have it. This one also a cloth back on the SA7. Many of the first issues here for Shenandoah Area. Again, none of them likely to be confused with the first issue, which was a twill. Well, I'll leave you with that. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of First CSP. We'll be back again tomorrow with another brand new episode. Until then, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.